And we are back on KASS Spotlight this fantastic Wednesday night. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Levi Kones. With me is Mr. Ezekiel Libamira, who has been talking to us about his journey in his fight with cancer. He fought it, he conquered it, he's here to tell the story. And we're just about to talk about his walk into chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Let's just pick it up from there. So now, when the chemo and the radiotherapy started, how was that like?
Before we got there, first of all, the doctors were pushing. They were spoke about it as if it must be done faster than immediately. And oblivious of whether you have the money or not. So I had the process of waiting for the money. But eventually...
It's crazy expensive, isn't it?
It is very expensive, very expensive. And I have been told that many people, when they hear of the cost, they ignore it, they say, let me just stay until the day I'll die. Having interacted with many victims. Now, the doctors kept breaking the news to me slowly by slowly and preparing me. Nobody had even mentioned cancer, by the way. They mentioned those scientific words, carcinoma, and etc. But then now, as I'm being prepared by the oncologist, she looks at me and tells me, Zach, we have become friends now, so she could call me Zach. And she tells me, some people have been lucky to go through chemotherapy without being admitted in hospital. I took a look in her eyes and I told her, this man, you will not admit him to hospital. Already, that was enough to know that I'm going to fight it in such a way that I will be strong enough not to face or to be confined in that ward. That's one step. Still, I don't know what is involved. Then we continue with tests, etc. And finally, she takes me and is wheeling me to my first radiotherapy. And that's when the first time the word cancer is pronounced. And she says, Zach, in a layman's language, the cancer you have is called throat cancer. Instant, I remembered certain speculation about a leading personality in the region who has suffered cancer. And I quickly thought about him and I said, so-and-so suffered throat cancer. I told myself quietly, he's alive. I counted so many years. There were more than 10, almost going to 20 years. And I said to myself, so-and-so suffered throat cancer. He's alive. I'm going to live. Levi, I didn't care that he was the head of state in the region. I didn't care that he had money to go to whichever country you can talk about.
Yes.
All I cared was, he's alive. I'm going to live. And thereon, I said, now I'm ready. Let's go for the radiotherapy.
Wow.
Yes.
I admire that psych.
Thank you.
I admire that psych.
Yes.
So you get into the radiotherapy now, what happens?
I get into the radiotherapy. I'm wheeled in. I'm cautioned what I should not eat, etc., etc. I'm told, keep off spices, 100%. Very few words I'm told. I'm not prepared. There's no time to be taken through a nutritionist what I should eat and what I should not eat. So I don't even know what to expect. So I am wheeled in. So this machine comes and it stays here for about 5 minutes, and then it's transferred to my front for 5 minutes, and it's transferred to my left for 5 minutes. 15 minutes, I'm told you can go. And that has to continue for 33 radiotherapy sessions to be done every day with a break of weekends. In between, then the oncologist tells me, I'm writing for you chemotherapy. The first one is on this date. Meanwhile, within the first 3 days of the radiotherapy, I lost every test sense. I couldn't taste anything, including honey. Test was 0. So then I go for chemotherapy. After chemotherapy, same day in the afternoon, in the evening, I go for radiotherapy. I can't forget that day. I was cautioned. There'll be some nausea. I'll feel some nausea.
That's part of the side effects.
Side effects. And I'm given some medicine to help suppress the nauseating effect.
Right.
But then I take this and I get onto this public service vehicle, and from the hospital all the way approximately 15 kilometers, I throughout the journey, I had to sit on the window of the bus. Now, look at this process. Number one, I lost appetite. Number two, I lost taste for anything. So you have no appetite, you have no taste, and you must eat. And you are eating. In fact, it's even better to drink water.
Right.
Number three, after chemotherapy, you throw up everything. Number four, I get mouth sores. Number five, I'm so dehydrated, the tongue becomes as dry, you feel like it's a piece of wood. And the pain is, you feel, when it begins to move, is like a razor blade has passed through.
So this basically means you stop eating.
Imagine, Levi, even when I'm given painkillers, and when I drink water, and the water passes through the gums, I feel pain. Effects of the radiotherapy. Are we together? So it's very, very easy to give up. Very easy, Levi, to give up. I must confess at this time, I think within 2 weeks, I was on the verge of giving up. I will not pretend. I was on the verge of giving up.
Now you're not able to eat at all? Your
I was
weight must have been dropping?
Weight dropped. I lost 42 kilos. And after I was through with the medication process, it took me 1 year to regain 5 kilos. Because you struggle. I had to force myself to eat.
Maybe for the viewer, just say, previously, how much were you weighing?
I was weighing 103 kilos. I reduced to 61 kilos. Do your arithmetic.
Wow.
My clothes couldn't fit me. Totally.
Definitely.
My waist reduced from 41 to 34. Even if you took it to the fundi to adjust it, it will lose its shape.
It just couldn't.
So
yeah.
I am forced to wear the clothes of my children, who were at that time ages 17 and 18.
Wow.
And at that time, you've lost so much weight. Meanwhile, the radiotherapy effects has darkened you. So I meet friends like you, I meet colleagues, I smile at them, they pass. Not because they don't want to talk to me, they could not recognize me.
You must have been
all.
very different now.
Yes. In the process, people who come to visit me, nobody came twice. They walked out and they would not return. And they would, some of them confessed later. They said, Kule Sirudi, that guy is going to go. In fact, 3 weeks ago, I sat with a friend and she was opening up and she says, the day we came to see you, we saw you put a brave face. We sat there, there were 3 ladies, prayer warriors. And she tells me, as soon as we left your house, we drove by the corner and we broke down. We began crying and we prayed. Others, even pastors and pastors' wives, they would leave and they'd say, let's pray for Zach's children. Meaning Zach is not coming.
Zach is not coming. He's gone.
Yes.
Just what really fed your spirit at this moment?
Very good question. I still continued focusing on the things that I felt I have not finished. But number one, I repeat, number one, I took a picture of my children, looked at them, and I said, for these ones, I must live. There were many other reasons, Levi, very many reasons, but number one was the children. And that kept me going.
So then, now, take us through how now you ended up on top of this.
Now, I finished 32, 33 radio sessions. I finished the whole process of the chemotherapy. I couldn't forget. After my first chemotherapy, the second one, I got there and I prayed and I told God, give me sleep as I go through this chemo. Reason is that during the first experience, Levi, I can't describe it. I can't say it is painful. I cannot describe it. I think it felt to me like a walk through hell. And I went through. However, thank God for a friend who recommended a serious high dose of natural products, natural therapy, which will do the cleansing and the boosting and the nourishing. And even if I can't eat, the products themselves were food. And through this mouth where things could not pass, food couldn't pass, I passed through this mouth 72 capsules per day of nourishers, of cleansers, detoxifiers, and immunity boosters. Every single day. In fact, those were too many. I would, every 2 hours, so long as 2 hours had passed, I would take the next ones. The reason is that if I delayed, there would be an arrears. And that would make me, there are too many. So that's what I did. And I believed, and as I said, I believed that they were going to help me, which they did. In fact, I must say this. Initially, what motivated me is I couldn't turn my head. I would, if I want to do this, I would have to do that. And I took one of those products, which is a major anti-cancer product and major cleanser, which prevents the spread of cancer. And its functions, it deals with any tumor in the body, and it breaks them and flushes it out. And within 2 weeks, I took a high dose, and I could be able to turn this, and that gave me motivation to continue. And as I continued, I said I won't stop until I'm back on my feet. Meanwhile, I must say I am a very committed Christian. And I chose to speak to God like a friend, because the Word of God says, He is the friend that sticketh closer than a brother. So I said, I will talk to Him as a friend. How did I do that? First process was, I couldn't forget, on the day of the fundraising to raise money, 1 million plus for the treatment, outside the church where we are doing fundraising, the car got stolen. I remember that's how I began now dealing with God, and I smiled, I looked up and I told God, I know you have a better car for me. That didn't bother me, because that would have put me down.
Right.
Then Definitely. I went further. I kept talking, listening to people, motivational speakers, biblical, and they would share cancer stories of their beloved parents, and that kept me going. And one day, going through pain, going through a series of thoughts in me, I'm sitting outside in the sun, but I had become so weak that 3 minutes in the sun was enough, because the sun would burn me, you know. Remember, this mass of flesh had been reduced. So 3 minutes, I dashed back to the house. I come back, 3 minutes, I dashed back. And one day I sat and I smiled at God. He hit me with a tumor. This tumor in my body is foreign. God, it must leave.
Wow.
It's like the process is yours. You know, it's like when you pray and say, I've given you my request, and it's up to you to deal with it. This is your child. It's up to you. You want the glory? I didn't tell that not to God, but you know what to do. So it was soft. I didn't want to put a fight the way you want to fight and wrestle with God. No, so I said, He's a friend, and I'll deal with him as a friend.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Wow. Very powerful words there if you're watching. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.